Good afternoon and welcome back to the Wolff Den. I am Matt Wolff, founder of Ticket Time Machine, and today we welcome Chris Amenechi to the show. Welcome to the Wolff Den. How's everything going today?
Hey, good morning.
You
good, Matt?
I'm doing great.
Well. How are you?
We're going to talk about something that probably affects everyone, and that's airfares. And so if you want to just give a quick introduction
Absolutely.
about who you are and what you do, and we'll get into it.
Hi, my name is Chris Amenechi. I'm a former airline exec, if you might, focused around the revenue generation side of the business, pricing, how we actually sell tickets and how we extract revenues from customers. But I'm also a founder of a company called SeatCash, and our first product is called FareX. It's a prediction platform that tells you exactly when to buy and brings that transparency to the marketplace for buyers, especially large-scale buyers, to have more intelligence in the way they buy airline tickets.
How long were you in the airline industry?
Oh wow, that's aging me a bit, but I'd say somewhat still in it. Been there almost 30 years.
30 years. And how did you get into that? I mean, is that something you targeted or just something you fell into?
No, I'd always wanted to be in the industry ever since I was a kid. My initial degree is in aeronautical engineering. Wanted to build airplanes. But I got a bug on the business side. Hey, it's one thing to go design that. I'm not going to design a bolt forever, right? But I want to know how to make this stuff work and how you buy airplanes, how you make them, how you manufacture them, how you insure them, how airlines work. And I got the bug, did an MBA, and got into the business.
And obviously pricing is probably the biggest topic that has to do with airlines and airfares. There's a lot going on in the airline industry today that we'll get I'd like to talk about.
Absolutely.
But talk first just about your platform and how did you come up with it and how does it work?
So our platform, FareX, actually was a premise for a different idea. Our idea at the beginning when we launched back right during the heat of COVID was to be able to find a smart way to give people back their money, allow unused tickets, that is, but also do it in such a way that was friendly to the airlines, and also allow folks who could take advantage of that give back to buy cheaper airfare travel in bulk. That during COVID was a big tall order, but I think it's going to come back anyway. But in that whole process, we had to be able to predict what was going on.
And that's brokers?
It's more of an exchange.
Market.
It's a secondary market, but it's more of an exchange that. In that time, our value proposition was, look, it takes away all the angst from the airline and the customers. And if you just didn't want to travel again or you were not sure, it'll be an easy way for you to say, just give me back my money or give me a piece of my money. I'll get my cash back. And by the way, you can keep a piece of it just like it does today. For somebody who was looking for a cheaper alternative, an airline wouldn't have to do a sale because it had unused tickets that he could put on the marketplace at a specific rate, and they'd be in control of it. That was the initial idea.
What would the incentive be to have cheaper fares instead of, like the secondary market most people know about, whether it's concerts or events?
The kind of nuances to this. When you think of it like a seat at a ticket arena, there's a specific day that event is happening. So it's easy, it's just an arbitrage of what that is. However, when you think in travel, it's a moving piece, right? Just because I don't want to travel out on a Friday and return on a Tuesday, right? The person who wants to go buy that alternative option doesn't want to come back on a Tuesday. right? And so the whole concept was, look, forget the itinerary, just take the value, correct?
It's a seat. It doesn't matter what day it
Exactly.
is and what time it is. It's a seat, and if there's an available seat,
Exactly.
it's almost like standby.
Well, it will be confirmed, but yes,
Right, but it's the
certainly that's it.
idea that if there's an available seat and you have a
You take it.
voucher ticket, you can use it
Exactly.
for that. Are there
Exactly.
blackout dates?
Yeah, well, the airline could do those things if they wanted to, but look,
Yeah.
with the technology we have and the predictive capabilities we have, you could do so many things with it from an airline perspective and also from a customer perspective.
Yeah, I want to get
Look,
back to that because
the
it's one of the biggest pet peeves that I have with regards to flying. It's and kind of trying to everyone feels like the airlines are they're trying to make as much money as they can. They make a ton of money, like a ton of money, and they're always trying to squeeze extra dollars out of you, and it's all like
so
it's crazy. But anyway, we'll get back to that. So tell us more about the
I'll say this from my airline brothers and sisters that actually it's one of the toughest businesses you can find. Yes, they're trying to squeeze as much cash they can out of a transaction, but the margins are really thin. I mean, you're talking in some cases, in my entire career, I can only tell you maybe in the last 10 years where margins are above 3%. I can even tell you there was maybe only 1 or 2 years we made a profit.
really.
Yeah, that's how bad the business was. And that's why, there's a
Now
big,
they're making billions. I mean, are they not making billions?
oh, no, 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 no. If you look at the big guys, Delta and United are the two actually making good money. It's not in the billions, it's in the hundreds of millions. For a full year, there may be a 60 billion total revenue company, but their profit at the end of the day is probably about $3 or $4 billion.
That's not a lot. It sounds like a lot to me.
Well, compare that to
I operate on bigger margins, and I'm not supposed to.
compare that to a Nike or a P&G or an Apple, where if they're making $1 trillion,
Right. I mean,
they're making
it's all relative, but
$300 billion in profit.
right. But my only point is a company that's making $1 billion, $100 million in profit, trying to increase their prices. It's a harder thing as a consumer to swallow. That's just my point.
No,
My
no,
opinion.
no.
Certainly can compare to
No, no.
companies that are doing more and worse or charging more or more expensive. I agree with that.
Yeah. What I would say is there's only so much the consumer can take, right? And you can't price everybody to death. And if you've got the experience and the seasons of understanding the economic cycles, you're going to know when you're hitting that position, right? And normally what happens in business is who is going to take the lead to start being more reasonable about the customer, right? And the customer is going to be smart and start finding ways to usurp your model. And then somebody's going to come into the industry and figure out how to build a better mousetrap and solution that disrupts the industry, gets them a cheaper opportunity, and decreases your value into the marketplace.
And
So
FareX is a disruptor.
it is a
It's not necessarily
disruptor.
decreasing the value because while other people are getting cheaper flights, more people might be buying and they might be flying more often, right?
Yeah. So I would say what FareX does is brings you the transparency based on when your intent shows up. So the challenge you have with travel is when you perk up in your mind and say, "Hey, I want to travel." You go check when you're going to travel. That's the price you see. Now, if you knew that 3 months ago, it would have been a lot cheaper, but you're past that, right? So it's when you show up and go hit the system and say, hey, I want to travel now. I want to travel in 2 weeks. My God, you're now pricing at the peak of demand, and it's not going to be cheap, right? In some cases it is, in some cases it's not. Every market's different.
I mean, the stories out there are maybe 3 weeks, anything within 3 weeks, and the best days are Tuesday and Wednesday to buy.
Yeah,
that
those are anecdotal things, and
yeah.
no, I don't believe in those. Look, I'll tell you where some of those myths came from, and these were in the days. I'm going to age a bit. I'm sure some of our Gen Z, or if you Gen Z followers, anybody like that might remember this, or may never have seen this. The days when newspaper ads were airline ads were in the newspapers. I'm not sure if you remember this. On a Tuesday would be the day you'd see a Southwest ad, right? Full paper USA Today, you have a full paper ad of Southwest fares from point A to point B. You just talk about the scale of the business. And so what used to happen was Tuesdays are the biggest booking days because the sales were on Tuesdays. Therefore, the seats were there. So there's a difference between the booking day and the travel day. On a Tuesday, only business people travel, right? And so, yes, you might find a cheap fare as a person who's not traveling in business, but that will either have to buy far in advance. There's no reason why I'm going to discount a seat to you because you want to travel today on Tuesday because you're a leisure customer. How do I know you're a leisure customer? I would know that. But a business person is willing to spend $500. So you're not going to find it cheaper on a Tuesday, depending on, if you show up 2 weeks to departure or 1 week to departure. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I get it. So tell us, how does this platform work?
So our platform today basically has a ton of data, lots of terabytes of data, where we've studied lots of markets and how airlines actually manage the offers. And then we take that and build smart models around that and then say, okay, here's how this airline actually makes its offers from the day it has its inventory out to sell to the day that flight departs. So for every day in the future, we know how a specific market is going to be offered, not just for one airline, but for multiple airlines.
Are they pretty consistent, or are they roller coasters?
They're not pretty consistent. It depends on the market and depends on the discipline of those airlines, right? They don't collude, but if they've been in that market for a while, they've got 5 flights a day between themselves and their competitors. Generally, the market always comes back to behave in a certain way. And if they've been very consistent, all of them, then you'll see very consistent offer patterns.
So, I mean, with this, it's an easier way to be more loyal to an airline because you kind of get a better idea of how they're pricing. And
that's correct. That's correct. Think of it this way: if you lived in New York and you went to DC all the time, right? You can go by train, you can fly. But if you do this every week, you're going to obviously see certain patterns on your travel. And it's going to be consistent. If it's $300 on one airline, chances are it's $300 on the other airline, right? Because the demand is generally the same between all those guys, and they sort of share that traffic base. And so what you normally will find is in those sorts of mature, good competitive markets, you'll see a lot of normal airline behavior. It's in other markets where you have newer entrants who are not as disciplined as the older guys or the legacy guys and are looking to, fight the battles. All sorts of things will be happening. And sometimes you have those battles happening between the legacy airlines, right? In Seattle at one time, Alaska and Delta had a big fight. And so you could actually benefit from cheap fares because of those fights. It all depends on when those flights happen. So you get those benefits. Or sometimes on the international flights, a new entrant comes into the market from another country. Let's say it's London to New York or London to Miami. Norse, which flies out of Gatwick from London, comes into Miami, and BA and American, like, who the hell are you? You're not just going to come here and take my passengers. I'm not going to give that up one bit. So it's a fight to the finish. But you, the consumer, is enjoying that until everybody adjusts and everyone's comfortable. Then you'll see, once this normalization, fares go up.
The website is FareX.ai.
Yes.
Obviously, AI, machine learning, that has to do with how you're collecting the data or using the data.
It's how we incorporate the data, how we model it, how we organize it, how we then create the predictions, and then how we then take some of those predictions and apply them to other tools like agentic AI to be able to do certain things a lot faster. So on our platform, we have APIs that we integrate into let's say business travel infrastructure to give them the intelligence that we create from our predictions. And then we've got some agentic tools that can basically do comparisons of maybe 10 markets at the same time, 10 origins to 10 different destinations. We could do that in less than a minute, compared to how folks do it today, which may take 3 weeks.
And this is for the casual flyer, someone who flies often, or
our go-to-market really is to the business corporate type flyer on the B2B side. But we also are opening up later next month to the way I would couch the customer on the B2B2C and even B2C side, who may come to our platform and use it for planning their trips. Really are a lot of frequent flies or adventurous flies who just want to use the intelligence appropriately.
And it's a SaaS model?
Yes, it's a SaaS model. It's a subscription model.
And it's
When
live
you come
now?
to our website. I'm sorry?
It's live now?
Say that one more time.
Live. The site is live.
Yeah, the site is live now. We're launching it fully next month. But today you might be able to get a free trial. I think most people get a free trial, and so it's there just to get eyeballs, get a lot of responses as to what's wrong, what they don't like, and things like that.
Now, what's the feedback that you've gotten so far?
Say that again.
The feedback that you've gotten so far?
Yeah. I think our connection got a bit messed up.
There was a little lull there. I was asking about what kind of feedback have you gotten so far?
The usual is, so how accurate are you? And what's the difference between you and Hopper? A lot of folks who are millennials and Gen Zs will ask that question. We are in totally different businesses, but and I'll get to talk about each of those. So can you tell me which markets in the world do you do? Why don't you have Bali? Right? We don't have every market in the world. We are a technology startup, if you want to think of it that way. We have about somewhere under 4,000 markets that we're predicting. They're mostly U.S. Origin markets and U.S. domestic markets. We do have U.S. to international points. London is one of our big markets. Dubai, Barcelona, Paris. We've got Singapore, Tokyo. We've got some major international points from the U.S. And we do have some international points to the US, not a lot, but in creating a much more balanced position. But it will take a while to get to the global position. We're still building out the US to be solid, but we have definitely more than the top 200-300 markets in the US.
So I generally use Kayak, which is an aggregator. Similar Hopper is as well. And
Yep.
I think there's a feature on something that I've seen that says, this is a good buy. And it'll tell you, is that somewhat of the idea of what your platform is going to be? Say,
Yeah.
Here's a good buy now, or maybe you should wait.
So we just say, look, whatever your intent is, because we don't know what your intent is. When you show up and say, hey, I want to go from point A to point B, show me how prices will change so I can actually really make up my mind when I want to travel, right? And so if this is the cheapest point from now to the point you want to go and travel, we tell you, now's the right time to buy, right? But if you want to wait a week because you got to get all your ducks in a row, we'll tell you how much more the price is going to go up. And so you have a bit more flexibility. The kayak models, look, their job is to sell tickets. Our job's not to sell tickets. Our job is to give you the intelligence, and then you go buy your tickets. Eventually, we'll have bookings and we'll refer you. We're not in the selling ticket business. We're in the intelligence business to help people save money, especially the big guys that spend top dollars, and also to give them a better idea of how much flexibility they have when they want to buy, right? How much they can wait and how much they can bear. So basically, you start to know your elastic point based on that. Just people don't know, and they just show up at any time, and then they wait and then go back again. It's, oh my God, it's gone up $100. Well, you will have known that when you come to us.
Does it go back
so you'll
down?
Know your limits. Yeah, it does. It all depends on when you're looking. In some markets, if every itinerary is available 330 days out from that intended departure date. And if you came in around 6 months of departure, in some cases, the price may still be very high. Depends on how the airline manages its offers. And then it drops significantly and then goes right back up. And, you mentioned 3 weeks. Everyone in the world has been conditioned, especially in the US, to kind of wait till 3 weeks to see whether cheap fares are there. And because of that, and some of that is just anecdotal, travel agents, airlines, all sorts of propaganda that's gone on. OTAs telling you that, Expedias, folks like that, the Greenbergs of the world telling you that. And people just, that's the word on the street, they wait. And when they go and they do that, there's everybody showing up in 3 weeks, the price is going up from that point to your departure date, right? So a lot of it is when the intent shows up.
Do you have any data to suggest how much money someone's saving by using your platform? And obviously, as a subscription, that's their goal, is to save, save money.
Yeah, depending on when you're looking, just generally, for business travelers, 1 day, especially if you're within the hot window of when business travelers normally make their decisions, which is within 21 days of an intended departure date. Generally, 1 day alone, 1 day of hesitation could cost you 5 to 10%.
And that's, again, the prices are the prices. You're just trying to tell them when these prices are.
We're not manipulating the prices. We're not trying to tell airlines to price low. We're trying to tell the customers, hey, look, if you're okay with a 10% increase, look, if the first $300 and you don't mind it being $330 tomorrow and you're going to wait to make a decision, I mean, that's tremendous information for an airline about you. That means your elasticity is pretty good, right? You have an upper limit that you've decided is worth for this trip. So you can afford to wait 1 or 2 days, even if it goes to $400, you're not worried. That person has the money to do so. Not everybody has that.
I think they're just. I think the majority of people say that's high. Maybe it'll go lower if I wait, and then
Yeah,
it doesn't, and then they.
it doesn't.
And I've gotten just
Exactly, it doesn't. And
depressing.
then, yeah, if you think of holidays right now, Thanksgiving is coming up, right? Um, so when's the right time to buy for Thanksgiving? Well, if you're just going right now, in some markets, it's still a good time to buy. But generally speaking, you're already late.
How does new airlines like Allegiant and Frontier and some of these other smaller and newer operations affect your data? Because they don't fly as often, they don't have as much data out
Yeah.
there. Are you pretty good with what they're offering, or is that going to take some time?
Well, we sort of learn from them. So I'll give an example. I mean, Frontier, Allegiant, all those guys. We collect a bunch of those airlines. The ones where we're just beginning to look at their behavior as Breeze and Avelo, they're still pretty new, but generally they're not too far off from the major guys. They may be cheaper, but they're not too far from the major guys.
Just you're talking about in a pattern. That's what you're looking at, patterns.
In their patterns.
So this
exactly.
might,
Patterns
airlines
are very
300 and they're fluctuating 5%. And if these guys are at 200, they're probably fluctuating with the same 5%.
Exactly. And they maybe have 2 flights a day, right? The other guys have 30 flights a day, right? And so, look, the amount of inventory you have to compete with theirs is nothing at the end of the day. So, yeah, you might have a cheap fare, but by the time you've sold 10 of them, you've caught up to those guys, right? And so there's only so many seats you can sell, right? And it depends on how disciplined they are.
The airlines have gotten pretty good at knowing how many people are going to fly. So there's not a ton of empty flights out there where, you know.
Yeah, well, it depends. I mean, most people who are not business travelers uh, tend to fly on peak days, Fridays after 5, Saturday mornings, Sunday evenings. Uh, they're not as savvy as to when to buy and when to travel. The different things. When to
Well, I think
travel
they're
is what.
constrained more. I mean, when I was working for corporate and I was taking vacation, it was basically Thursday to Sunday.
That's right. That's
I
right.
didn't want to take off an extra day. Now I could look at, what does Wednesday look like? What does Monday look like? Because
Absolutely. And so you need smarter comparison tools to give you those answers, right? And which is kind of what we're trying to do, right? Airlines have that. They'll give you a calendar, you look at that. But it's just an instant, and when you look, you need something that informs you for the next week, or as long as you're planning, you need to understand what will happen, what will change. So yes, I mean, boomers now have a great opportunity, which is another key market, to be able to say, hey, look, I don't have to travel on Thursday evenings. I can travel at noon on a Thursday. I can travel at noon on a Wednesday. I can travel at noon on a Tuesday. These will be sort of the best times to fly without all the hassle.
Yeah. Do you have any idea on the balance of people who have rigid schedules and the travelers who have some flexibility?
I don't have an exact count, but I can give you some basic uh,
Just a rough feeling.
estimates of it. Uh, what you're seeing today in the U.S., those who have rigid schedules, which means business travelers and employees, workers, uh, generally they're about 60 to 7% of the market, right? And they make up the bulk of the travelers. However, what's happened in the last 3 years is boomers who make up somewhere in the boomers and Gen X's who make up somewhere in the 20% of the population are retiring in mass numbers, and they are traveling. And so they are creating a fundamental difference in what you're seeing relative to the products the airlines are offering and how much those products are and what's affordable. Boomers have money, right? Not everybody, but a bulk of boomers have retirement funds. They got houses, they got equity, they've got credit, and they can afford to spend 5,000 on a trip to Europe. They
Do
can
they?
go to Vegas. And what you're seeing, even Vegas is taking a hit because the boomers are not going to Vegas. They go to Europe. They go to Asia, right? They're not going to Vegas. And
Right.
the younger folks don't have the time to go to those places. And some of
Yeah.
them are not even traveling to those places. So there's an interesting mix of change happening in what I call a domestic U.S. leisure business.
Yeah, I hear that Vegas is down, but they're still doing pretty good. They're building new ballparks for
Oh yeah,
teams.
oh
The
yeah.
conferences are still there, so and
Yeah, business travel ain't going to change. Vegas is
yeah,
still a spot for that. But,
yeah.
a regular Saturday type thing, you're not, it's changing. Right?
Does,
And the old entities are just going out of business.
does cost and availability of hotels in an area have anything to do with airlines and how they treat their rates?
It does, but you've got to see them in the life of that specific period. What the hotel prices were prior, similar to what the airline prices were 10 days out, 30 days out, 100 days out. I'll give it an example. New York. If you try to go to New York, let's just say the week of December 7th, there are lots of conferences, parties, all sorts of stuff happening in New York, right? Um, there'll be cheap airfares to New York, but the hotels are 500 to $1,000,
Yeah,
right? And so that has a huge impact on demand of airfares because the local market is there and people are coming from all over. The drive traffic is high, and that week is just a crazy week for hotel rates in New York.
yeah,
Look at the same thing happens in Miami, right? In Miami, in certain weeks, forget about it, right? So you'll see a ton of drive. A lot of people who actually stay outside the core South Beach area, which even that has changed a lot. But flights to Miami or really flights to Fort Lauderdale, you'll see a ton of options. The fares are still relatively cheap, but the hotel rates are insane. I think some of this is going to come to a head at some point with all the inflationary positions and the spend of the U.S. consumer. You know, uh, you're seeing that spend change when it comes to air travel.
your flight information, is it taking into account all the extras, the baggage, the choosing seats, and whatever
No,
other insurance go on?
we don't take that into account per se in our predictions of what I call the entry airfare is. Um, However, we can easily estimate what those are, and also we can predict what that is. We're not doing that today, but we also understand how the airfares that include those products, how they're priced, um, and how that also works. So a smart consumer now should know whether to buy those products, which I call an upsell for the airlines, or to try and take their chances on the a la carte model.
Yeah, it's gotten. It used to be easy to book and find, and now nickel and diming you for everything, charging for carry-on bags when those were free, and now Southwest, charging for bags, which is, I mean, I get why they do it, right? It's the airlines make a ridiculous amount of money by charging for bags, but that was sort of a differentiator for them, with the fares and charging for seats and charging for a bottle of water, and it's gotten, I think they're doing it because the average person isn't probably going to change their habits. I'm not going to not fly because, I got to pay $20 more for my bag, and I fly often.
That's right. I mean, think of it this way. Uh, and, look, for the consumers, we're all being trained in this way of a la carte pricing. Your phones. There's a lot of bundle pricing on the phones, and there's a lot of a la carte pricing on mobile phones, right? It's already that way. Cable, no different, right? And then now you think about Amazon, Netflix, everybody, all of this is embedded in that formula. So you have a generation of folks who are pretty sharp about this because that's all they know. It's folks like us who always had everything bundled into one thing for free, which was the Southwest model. And I'm probably one of those guys who was very much saying to Southwest 10 years ago, you're foregoing a ton of value. It's about how you execute, right? And how you differentiate the product, right? Look, there are many people in Southwest who took it for granted, many customers, and at the same time who just carried a ton of crap and put it on those planes. That's weight, right? That's a ton of weight. That's fuel you're burning when you carry those things on the airplane. Not that you shouldn't carry them, but you think that it's
why is it any less weight if it's below than if it's in a
Yeah, below, the bags, you can size them. There's actually a place to weigh those things. There's a way to tell what that weight is. When you're bringing 25 pounds in a carry-on, you don't know that. That just adds a bit more weight. And there's certain flights internationally where they're bringing 30, 40 pounds in carry-ons. Not just one, not just two, 70% of the plane, right? And at some point, that's a safety issue, right? In addition to, look, you should have checked bags. And those are ways to get around checking your 2-bag allowances. You don't pay the extra for the 3rd bag. There are many ways for consumers to have done all the things that they've done, even though some of the airlines allow that, and some of it is okay.
But the way they make it sound is more of a money issue than a safety issue.
Well, again, everything is in how you market. I'm not saying airlines are the best marketers in the world. That's a whole nother conversation. I'm sure I'll be the minority of the folks telling you that. I've been there, done that. We need to be better marketers.
I think they most people are loyal to an airline for whatever reason. Maybe it was the bags, maybe it was the credit card they have, travel benefits. Maybe it's just, hey, I go from here to here, and these are my options. This is where I live. These are the best airlines without having to go through, one or two stops. So I think that they've become a little bit lazy in the fact of trying to make the customer happy.
True. So I would say, look, the fundamentals of this are where you live. One, is there a hub there? And if there's a hub, most likely you're going to stick to where there's convenience. So the schedule to the points that you want to travel to, who has the most convenient schedules? That's one. Two, who has a lot of seats, so you have options, right? Yeah. That's the second. And of course, the ancillary conversion tactics are around credit cards, right? So I've got a credit card that's tied to the airline, and I get a ton of benefits for that. Boom. And if I'm a frequent traveler, they treat me differently. I get the lounge, I get upgrades, all that kind of stuff. All that makes a difference. To a frequent flyer, even though they may live in a hub, they always want one or two or three other options because they're frequent flyers. So yes, when they get everything they want from one airline, they switch to another airline, get a different experience. So they have options.
I'm a good example of that. I live in South Florida. I fly to New Jersey a lot. I fly all over the country. I'm not loyal to any brand. I try and go, what's the best for the price and the schedule? All things being equal, I will go with JetBlue because they have the most legroom for someone. I know you can't tell here, but I'm 6'4". They have the most legroom. I could sit in a seat there and not be uncomfortable as opposed to the other airlines. But I'm very close to Palm Beach County, which is a great airport, very easy to get to. And, a little bit further is Fort Lauderdale. There's better rates and more options in Fort Lauderdale. So I have to, especially for nonstop. But I'll look at Spirit to see, hey, what do they have? Because to me, they're all becoming so similar. The only thing that to me, the difference is how much legroom is there. And these cheaper airlines or thrift airlines, their seats are very uncomfortable. I don't know why they need to be uncomfortable. They just are.
Yeah. So I can give you some insight. Look, you're correct. You live in Palm, just around the border, right? Palm Beach County and Fort Lauderdale. So yes, if you have some nonstop flights out of West Palm, you can find. It's not a ton of options, but it's going to be a bit more expensive. So you go to Fort Lauderdale, you got a ton of options, right? And so when you talk about legroom, I mean, JetBlue has, in the front of the plane has a bit more legroom than the others, and it's 32 inches at the back of the plane. However, United has in the front of the plane the same legroom, if not more. Delta has the same. American, I think, has a little bit of that, but Frontier doesn't. Spirit just has the front of the plane, the few seats in the front of the plane. Otherwise, you're dealing with 30, 31 inches, which is a bit tight, and the seats are thin for some of these airlines. They've always been in a survival mode, and so everything about what you see in the experience of the airplane is to have the least amount of weight, so you don't burn as much fuel. Whether it's the seats, which is why, the thin seats or reticulating seats, and everybody complains about that. But they're done, they're safe, but they're just not comfortable for our flight, right? For the most part. And so there's a method to that madness. Reduce your operating cost as much as you can. Get as many people onto the airplane as much as you can. And, drive your revenues and make your margin. You'd see that Delta and United have changed a bit of their philosophy. They want a lot more loyal customers, a lot more friendly customers in that sense. But they're making sure you've got products that you can adjust yourself to and be loyal to, right? And don't forget, these guys have 800, 900 airplanes flying every day. Some 1,000 airplanes flying every day. To orchestrate what I call a product, a mass customized product for an airline is extremely hard. So you've got to be very standard. And even in that standard, to execute it on every flight the same way, not saying no excuse, but that's tough. There are very few businesses that have that sort of delivery. Sure. Right, and where that is expected.
Add in a government shutdown and chaos.
Absolutely, and then the weather 20% of the time could act up, and then these are machines, so another 3-5% of the time they act up as well. So yeah, there are massive challenges to that business. It's no different than if you were in the Greyhound business or you're in the bus business. You have the same issues. Everything is not the same. In the sense that you can deliver it. One driver is not the same as the other driver. I mean, we can get to the point where we have robots that do this, and they'll do it perfectly, and sort of keep that standard the same.
I would think that's an interesting point. We have the self-driving cars. Is there any reason to think we couldn't have a self-flying airplane? There's a lot less.
Airplanes fly themselves today, by the way.
Yeah.
I don't think you will enter an airplane when there's no pilot.
Well, that's what I mean. Without a pilot, obviously you can go cruise control, but you think they'll always have to be someone.
The planes can fly themselves. The planes can fly themselves. They can take off and land them.
There will always have to be someone up there just in case.
Think of drones. Do you need a pilot in a drone? The pilot is there flying the drone from a remote location, and the plane can fly.
Yeah.
But people are just not ready for that. that Jetson age position is not there yet.
Yeah, I'm so surprised. I think Jim Carrey is going to be playing George Jetson in a movie. It always surprised me that we're not closer to the Jetsons and Back to the Future 2 than. I mean, there's so much technology and the advances that they've had are incredible. But I always thought we'd be closer to that. I don't know why. That's just.
Well, I think some caution has to be brought in, but here are the issues that I think need to be fixed or need to be ready for it, right? The infrastructure to regulate, to maintain a decorum of behavior and safety and guidance, the air traffic control system,
That's by far
has to be improved and has to be brought up to 20 years from now, right?
We have still roads already, and that's more controlled.
That's correct. I mean, it can't manage drones. It can't manage the military space and then manage all these airplanes that are flying every day. I mean, just do a flight aware in the U.S. at any one point, and you see how many planes are flying, all over the place, right? And now you just want to allow me to take my car and become a flying car and start going, into 30,000 feet versus 5,000 feet. I've got buildings. There's no way chaos is. We think we have road jams and accidents right now.
I don't see it happening in our lifetime.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. Taxes will happen. Some of the taxes might be pilotless from building to building, just within a city, a metro area. You may see that happen probably in the next 5 to 10 years, a lot more. Just like taxes.
How much does that really even save? Is it worth it? That's what you have to sort of think about, right?
Well, right now, these are almost at the extreme points, right? Look, if I'm at Fort Lauderdale and I need to go to Latin America and I don't have any options out of Fort Lauderdale, but now I planned my trip. I flew from New York. I got a $99 fare to Fort Lauderdale. But if I fly nonstop from New York to, let's say, Panama, it's $600, and I can fly out of Miami, and it's $200. I mean, that's $300 that I saved. Now, how do I get from Fort Lauderdale to Miami Airport in less than 20 minutes?
Underground, or the Elon Musk tunnel, or a fast train, a bullet train, which they've been talking about forever.
A nice eVTOL just picks me up and flies me there.
Yeah.
In London many years ago in Gatwick Airport, there was what we call a short vertical takeoff landing airplane. You go from, as soon as you arrive in London, you go to that pad, you take that plane and it takes you to Heathrow.
But wouldn't you be talking about you already have to control this airspace? Now you'd have a second level of airspace that needs to be controlled. And you can argue that they haven't 100% mastered the first, even though they're pretty good at it.
Yeah. They're pretty good. I think we've just pumped more airplanes into that system, and that system wasn't built for that level of traffic. But they now have to manage right under those levels, right? And where general aviation normally is, and now you're bringing in all these things into that general aviation space. Where there's maybe an airplane or two airplanes every 10 minutes or 30 minutes. Now you're going to have 100 airplanes every 2 minutes. That's crazy.
Yeah, I agree. I want to get back to something you said earlier, which is it's sort of a pet peeve of mine, and it's the itinerary-based travel. And you're talking about, well, we could almost sort of have a voucher, and if there's an open seat, you can get it. Because a lot of times I make a phone call and I say, look, I want to get on this flight, and they'll tell me, well, there's a change in airfare here.
Yep.
And of course there's a change in airfare because it's more expensive today than when I bought it, but it's actually still the same. The flight today is the same as that flight. Yep. But of course, it's more expensive than when I bought it because we're 2 days away.
Absolutely.
I think they want me to get on that flight and open up a new seat. I'll never understand that.
So no, I mean this is where AI and agentic bots and things like that in a secondary market makes sense, right? To the idea that you were in a specific flight, you bought it at a certain price. Now you want to change to another flight where there's maybe two seats left. And let's just give some simple numbers. When you bought your flight, let's say your flight left at 9 a.m., but some meeting popped up and you need to leave at 2 p.m. You bought it for $200. And then the 2 p.m. flight now has one or two seats left, and it's $700. So you want to make that change, and they just look at you and laugh and say, "Hey, the difference is $500." Right.
The greatest part about that is they'll tell me there's no change fee. I'm like, yeah, of course there's a change fee. You want to be paying me to be able to make to pay them more money, but there's a change fee anyway.
Yeah. So yeah, that again is how you market things, right? And how you use technology to take that sort of translation, which would not make sense to you. Generally, there were folks who were scamming the system back in the day.
Yeah.
Right.
But they're speculating. They're speculating that someone's going to buy that seat.
No, there's enough intelligence to know that if people show up to buy on the day of departure. And in a lot of markets, you'd be surprised, especially in big cities, there are people who show up to buy a $10,000 ticket. And that's already in your history, so you wait for them. So I'd much rather take the chance. Look, if there was, I just told you the $700. So if the probability that the person that I expect to show up for that $700, let's say it's 50-50, it's worth $350, right? So that's still an additional $150 from what you pay. So why will I give it to you?
But if I show up at the airport, they'll put me on it if it's open.
Well, if you show up at the airport, they'll make you wait on a standby list.
Right.
And
but they know whether or not most part don't know whether or not.
People at the airport don't know jack.
They don't know if that's going to be available.
Those are frontline guys. They don't know anything about those. No, they don't know.
If they still know they have 12 open
they just
seats,
have anecdotal information.
Right.
Yeah, okay. Well, now if there are 12 open seats and they say, oh, there are 12 open seats, then if they've managed that flight for a long time, they're going to know generally because they've seen it. They'll just say, hey, okay, there's a seat here, I'll give it to you.
Right. I kind of want to know, is it worth me going to the airport 4 hours early? Because if I don't get it, now I'm at the airport for 4 hours. And they can't ever guarantee it, but you kind of want to get. But I think the idea of having, I guess it's a money issue then. They feel that they'll lose a lot of money if people can just freely just change.
Yeah. Look, I have 900 flights, right, a day. That 150 difference, if that happens even on 100 flights, that's about 15 grand a day. Multiply that by 365 days. You run into the millions real quick.
Right, but again, and we'll argue whether it is or not. But
I have enough science.
Make the money. There's a balance between still being able to make the money and being good to the customer and offering good service. And
no, I don't disagree with you. Meaning.
They don't give the authority to people to make common sense decisions. That's the other thing. I wrote that on a post about customer service.
Yeah, I hear you. But some of the comments, this stuff is a bit too complicated to just say, make your common sense decision. Certain things are easy for common sense, certain things are not.
Well, I used to be able to get an extra.
You just don't have enough insight.
Someone would look at me and they'd give me an extra row and they wouldn't charge me. Now they're like, well, you got to pay. And even if it's going to go empty.
Well, you see, you just made a statement. Even if it's going to go empty, how do you know it's going to go empty?
Well, because the doors have shut.
Okay. At that point, if the doors are short and you're on the list.
Well, we're boarding and they've gone through the list.
They've gone through the list and you're there. Then if the policy is very simple, then you get on the plane. Yeah. Well, right. And if somebody is now telling you, oh, before you get on, you got to pay $100. Then clearly that again is an airline not being smart. look, they gave you the opportunity to get on the plane without having to pay. And if everything is right, the seat is empty, the person who were expected to show up never showed up, you have enough time, boom, put the person on the plane, right? And you knew that was the process, but you have to market that very well to you as an option and say, hey, do you want to wait till the last board in, or do you want to just pay $50 or whatever the number is? Give you their option in a very enticing way. You make a choice. That's your choice. You see?
What do you
And
think?
then you don't mind paying $50. Say again, sorry.
About Southwest assigning seats?
Well, I'm one of those guys who you're not going to find saying things bad about paying for seat assignments or charging for bags. I've always believed that is the right way to go, as long as you had options where I don't have to do that. Right. So
have you been on a flight where they're seated? Because that feels like chaos between the people who are assigned and the people who are trying to find a seat.
Yeah. So look, the Southwest model, basically, as you know, when you get on Southwest, you're either in that group and you wait till your turn and you find your seat, right? Bags are free. Everything just went right. Good. It worked for a while. And at the point there was when there was a massive economic growth in the United States over the last 20 years. And so there was enough demand that paid for all those things. Now you're at a point where that economic growth, as much as people are trying to say the economy is great, forget the stock market. We're seeing a lot of tightness at the bottom economic layers, right? And Southwest doesn't have that traffic base. Spirit didn't have that traffic base as much as they used to have. So now you're getting crunched. And the question for Southwest is, how do I generate more money? Right? Now, I would say for them to execute this, they really needed to have the systems to do it properly. They needed the education. It takes a cultural change to make this work. And because they waited too long, they had to do this in a pretty short period of time. They've done okay with it. They've tried to market it well. But I think Southwest is still trying to find what its new ethos is as a brand in this new world. It's going to take them.
You can always go back, right? I mean, you can always go back.
You can always go back, but you're not going to pay more for that, are you?
No. I mean,
there you go.
I'm actually at the mercy of the schedule and where I'm going, to be honest with you. That's me personally. I don't have something that I'm so consistent with and trying to find other ways. All things being equal, what's your preferred airline? Do you have one?
Well, I'm an alumni of United, so I'm a bit more
favorite
to Continental. In terms of the United States, I'm still favored to that, but I would say Delta is generally good. In the U.S., what I would call compared to other parts of the world, what is the status of or the level of a good airline? And the big guys, it's really United and Delta at this point. I would say, in terms of an experience, Alaska is not bad. Southwest isn't too bad. Even Spirit, the rest, I mean, they're not too far out from each other.
Yeah, I agree. I think
they're really not too far.
How much is the leg room? How comfortable is the seat? Yes. They're all going to be delayed. They're all going to have a not nice.
The middle seat on any airline it's a cluster, right at the back.
Are we going to?
But there's some niche airlines that are doing okay, and it's an experience, and you're spending more than the average. Whether it's JSX, folks like that. You're just spending. You're paying for the experience.
Yeah. Do I get Wi-Fi?
Porter in North America. I worked for Porter at one time. They're out of Toronto, and they have a unique product, and had the big guys for the most part. Uh, but that experience is pretty decent. But they've been growing big, and they're still trying to deliver that experience. So in North America, they're great. Cooper is good, even though I'm a bit biased to those two. But I'll say in the North American space, generally speaking, United, Delta for the premium products. Uh, American is all right, but
Yeah.
most are slightly below those two, but not too far off.
Are we going to see airline consolidation? I know the DOJ
Absolutely,
rejected it, but it's
absolutely,
how
absolutely.
how much? Are we looking at two majors, three majors?
Uh, Given the cost of where fuel is, given the cost of pilots, given where airplanes are in terms of how many airplanes are available to fly and some of the supply chain issues that are impacting the number of airplanes that come into the market, how Boeing is doing and how Airbus is doing. I see my prediction is that there will be maybe one or two more consolidations.
Okay. Can we have an electric airplane flying us?
There are there are electric airplanes flying, but
Talking about like commercial.
not for the commercial stuff at this stage.
No, I get
In the
that.
taxi world, I think you'll see that.
All right. Tell
But
everybody FareX.ai. That's the website where you can go and see, find the
right.
best. When is the best time to buy? When to buy? Hashtag when to buy. What will they find there when they get there? What's
So
the model?
so look, if you're, we when you're looking to go somewhere, whether it's Hawaii, whether it's Miami, whether it's New York, you go into a site. This is less than a minute. Just put in your itinerary, and it basically tells you for the market how the pricing will behave, what's the current lowest price in the market, and what's the future lowest price, and when that window is to buy. And it shows you how the price will change, and you can expand the graph to be more specific, and then it delivers it to you by airline.
And I can use it
You
as Matt Wolff trying to find air flights for my vacations, or as someone who has a
Absolutely,
company that has,
for your
40.
business travel, for your vacations, for a friend, for your kids, however you want to do it. Just go put it in there. It will tell you what it is, as long as we have it in our portfolio
And it's a
market.
user subscription. You have one user, three
Yes,
users, company, that type of
yes,
service.
yes. You buy it. I'm sure your whole family will use it, but we're not monitoring how many
Right.
specific IP addresses are using it. No,
Right.
look, we want people to use this product from a planning perspective at this stage. And when we launch, we're also going to refer you to the air. If you pick an airline and say, okay, I like this airline, it's my airline, and you've told me when to buy, we refer you to that airline.
So they'll be able to book right there.
They go book in that airline's website, and until we bring in a booking functionality, which, we just don't want it to be the same thing as what you have every
Right.
day.
Right.
We're trying to make that even an experience where you don't even have to do anything. You just say, hey, I want to go from point A to point B. Right? You can text it, you can voice it, uh, and tell your agent that's what I want, and give it access. As long as it's your agent and has access to all the things it needs to buy, it can go tell you when to buy and then basically book it for you.
And as of now,
That's
there's a
that's
free
that's the
trial.
holy grail.
All right.
I'm
As of
sorry.
now, there's a free trial on the website.
There's a trial on the website, and you come on in and just use it for planning purposes,
Well, check it
especially
out.
for the end of the
Fair,
year.
FareX.ai. It's going to help you know when to buy. And I
Absolutely.
know for me, I'm going to check it out. I never know when to buy. I'm just guessing here, and I've been going to probably the same places often, and I just sort of I don't know. I'm a
Yeah.
creature of habit.
And let me just tell you, when you're thinking of going to a kayak or Expedia, any of these guys, they tell you, oh, this is the time to buy. Well, don't forget, they're trying to tell you what's the cheapest price.
Right.
Now, when you go look at that cheapest price, tell me what sort of itinerary it looks like. Sometimes, mostly, it's two different airlines. That a 5-hour trip might be a 12-hour trip.
Yeah. No, all of that, man. There's so many factors in trying to figure out the right flight for you, but knowing whether or not it's going to move is extremely important.
Right, right.
The average person
And
doesn't just say, I want to go look. They look at the flight and they buy there, right? That's not
correct.
what the average person does.
They're looking, even if you know what you want
Yeah.
today, let's say you go to United.com or Delta.com,
Yeah.
you know what you want, you know the price, you're like, you know what, they're still going to go do some more verification.
Yeah.
It's just human nature. It's almost like 100 searches for a purchase, even for someone who knows what they want and they're loyal.
It's like an illness we have.
That's right. So look, take all that angst out. It's just unsustainable. I mean, just the amount of infrastructure that supports the current system is just unnecessary.
Yeah.
So we're trying with our predictions, just eliminates all that angst.
Well, I'm looking forward to see where it goes. Again, FareX.ai. Thanks, Chris, for stopping by, and we'll hope to hear from you down the road and see how everything's going.
Absolutely. Hey, thanks. We've talked about a bunch of different things. You are in my space. I love the space, and I appreciate you taking it to all the different levels, from air traffic control to airplanes and into our core business of predictions.
Yeah.
Thank
Stay
you.
tuned for a future Wolff Den, and until then, go out and book some flights, have some fun, and be nice to each
Absolutely.
other. Thanks a lot.
And show up. Use our app. We love it.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.